I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our Center Court session on the Asian School of Business with the Chief Executive Officer, President, and Dean, newly arrived, Sanjay Sarma. Hi, Sanjay.
Hey, John.
Thank you for joining us today.
Such a great pleasure.
The MBA at the Asia School of Business is a relatively new phenomena, only around for a few years, really got its start through a partnership with MIT Sloan. Tell us where the program is right now, because I know there have been some changes from the original iteration of the program several years ago.
Yeah, John, we have launched and we are in the midst of the first intake of the one-year MBA. The original program was 2 years, and we have now reshaped it to a single year, which is more typical of the region.
Why go from 2 to 1? Is it simply because the expectations of the students were more in line with a one-year program? Or was it because, I don't know, I mean, you tell me.
There are a couple of reasons. First of all, I mean, frankly, we do our MBA differently. Action learning is a centerpiece of our MBA. So students actually go out and work with companies, solve problems, really learn through action. It's actually a founding principle of MIT, mens et manus, mind and hand. And the action learning component was a rich part of the 2-year MBA. Two things have changed. I mean, we have seen, frankly, two black swans land in this little lake of ours. One, of course, is COVID, and the other is GPT and the rise of AI, which it goes back a few years, but we saw it coming to some extent, to a large extent. And we believe that the opportunity cost of spending 2 years, even with all the action, is quite dear. So what we've done is pack the action into 1 year, and we're changing the pedagogy to pull the action into the classroom. And so that's why we can pull it off. That said, we very much want to be focused on our original principles, which is learning by doing.
And I remember, I think it was originally, was it as much as 90% of the program was experiential learning in its first iteration?
Yeah, there was a lot of experiential learning, and we may not be able to keep it at 90%, but experiential learning is central to MIT's. It's a core principle of MIT. You're going to keep it very high.
How does it manifest itself in the one-year program? Because I remember that in the original program, there were experiential learning projects and weeks away in several different continents. How does it work in the one-year program?
It manifests itself in 2 or 3 different ways. First of all, we're going to use a different pedagogy. We're going to flip every classroom. And over time, students will come into the classroom having already heard the lecture. We're using asynchronous videos, and the classroom becomes a studio. So I like to say that the action begins in the classroom instead of wasting classroom time on lectures. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we're going to be doing specific action around classes. So for example, for ops, we have an ops practicum, which before as well, we're going to continue to do that. And the third thing is we're going to be much more intentional about the action. Often what happens is when students go into a setting, there's a lot of, should we say, unstructured learning, but sometimes wasted effort as well. So we're going to be much more precise in both curating the action learning, preparing students, and preparing the project so that the action is extremely meaningfully accretive, but also efficient.
Right. Now, some of the folks who are watching may not know that you led the digital learning initiative at MIT for many years. And I'm thinking that that knowledge will inform how you flip a classroom, because many schools talk about flipping classrooms. But I think that few have actually mastered the art of that. I'm assuming that, but based on what you just said, there'll be a real important focus on making sure that the class sessions live will be especially interactive and dynamic, and that the flip will essentially be the more mundane, but basic foundational knowledge you need to fully participate in a dynamic discussion, right?
That's exactly right. It turns out there is, in fact, I mean, flipped classroom has become a bit of a cliche, right? Everyone wants to flip
Yes.
the classroom, but there's something very specific that works, and that makes MIT special. And we took advantage of that in my digital learning role. What you have to do is, first of all, produce the digital content in a very specific way to take advantage of the way the brain works. You don't put a 90-minute lecture on video, etc. You break it up into chunks, and you do all sorts of cognitive. You take cognitive practices to make sure that it's very effective. Then the actual classroom, you have to think through what you do. I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, watch the video and we'll figure something out in the classroom." No, you have to have very specific actions. You have to scaffold it. You have to have something called deliberate practice. You have to start with smaller problems and then sort of give more and more freedom and make sure that the discipline is maintained. You have to do case studies. You have to do simulations. You have to do games. So this whole thing is it's not at all easy. And we know how to do that. And that's how we're going to bring the action into the classroom.
Now, the Asia School of Business was largely a function of the Central Bank of Malaysia wanting to have a world-class business school, and then originally partnering with MIT Sloan to help establish the school and get it going. And in the early days, most of the professors were MIT profs who basically commuted back and forth. Then you started acquiring your own faculty. Where are you in that journey, and how central is the Malaysia Bank in the involvement of the school?
We're an entity that we have a board, and we have a couple of board members from the bank, Negara, which is the Central Bank of Malaysia. And so to that extent, and we have a board of governors, and we have representatives from Malaysia and from the government on the board of governors. But it's an independent entity. I'm the CEO. Our staff is employed by the university. We do have MIT faculty still come. We have a really fantastic faculty at ASB. Many of them are MIT grads, actually. And we are over time playing more on the cutting edge with the MIT faculty. That's sort of where we want to go further and further. So both the MIT faculty come over. We want them to do the stuff that MIT is really great at. And when the students go to MIT, get experiences that MIT uniquely provides. And then our faculty are going to be taking on the action learning, or the core lectures, and bringing in some of their research insights. So they'll also be sort of pushing the edge. But we want MIT to be more at the cutting edge.
So even in the one-year program, there still is a stint at MIT in the United States.
Absolutely. There are actually two strong interactions. One is MIT faculty will still come down and teach at ASB, and the other is our students will still go to the US, come to the US. In fact, they're here right now in Cambridge, where I am, and spend several weeks here immersed in MIT.
Right. Who is this program ideally for?
This program is, Asia is going through a great amount of change now, actually the whole world, and Asia is pretty much at the center of it. So this program is for young professionals who want to become leaders in this multipolar, multi-technology, multi-industry world. Where you may be in finance, but you're also somewhat consumer, and you're somewhat fintech, and you're somewhat, sustainability. So these are the transformative leaders we're trying to create. Now, it all seems, again, cliched, but it's really, for example, I just spent a few minutes with two of our students are here. One is from France and one is from Russia, and they're working on a startup that has to do with professional networking. So these are the sort of students we're trying to bring together to work on both corporate innovation, corporate leadership, but also in sustainability, government, and in entrepreneurship.
I'm also thinking that if you enter this program, you should be more likely to want a career in Asia. Is that true or not true?
I would say that the center of mass, certainly, but it's not entirely correct, because that's what I thought as well. I thought, it'd be the people who wanted to go hang out in Asia. But what we're finding is that we have some people from South America who want to go to Europe or go to South America. We have people from South America who want to settle down in Asia. We're seeing quite a confluence here. That was a surprise to me as well, because I'm new, as you said, and I'm very surprised at the at the intersections of people. Yeah, we have one student who was American who studied in Japan, came to ASB, and then went back to the States. You know,
Right. But I'm thinking that number one, you need to be much more globally focused than someone who might attend a traditional MBA program in the US, or if it's from Europe, a European program. And I'm thinking that Asia has to be a special interest as well, given its emergence in the global economy and given its importance in the global economy. So I mean, I would think that even if you intend to have your career elsewhere out of Asia, that in the future, Asia will play a part in how you think about the world and how you think about the economy, right?
absolutely. That has to be a part of your orientation, recognition of the importance and the diversity and the petri dish, and sort of playing in it.
Right, exactly. What's the size of your annual intake, and has it changed since you went from 2 to 1 year?
We haven't finished our 1 year intake. We're just in the midst of it. We will, because it's a new program, we'll probably go with a smaller but high quality class, and then we will grow it next year.
So you're aiming for a cohort of what size, basically?
Our cohorts traditionally been in the 40 range. We'll probably go with the 20, 30 range just to kick things off, because we want to really focus on making this a fantastic experience.
So it'll be a very intimate program, and you also have it's a residency, right? I mean, you have a residential campus.
Yeah, so that's the point. I mean, I think it's going to be an intimate program. The action learning is a lot of work. I mean, it's both for the students
Right.
and for us. So it is, and because we're a beautiful campus with the residency built right next to the academic setting, it's very much, as you said, intimate and immersive.
Do you put much emphasis on leadership development in this
We
program?
do. Yeah, we do. And actually, funny enough, action learning brings it on naturally as well, because you're in this setting where you have to deal with, a company in an industry that you've never dealt with, dealing with a problem you've never dealt with. But we also have a lot of opportunities for students to lead within the organization, and we teach a lot of leadership. And actually, the MIT immersion really instills that in spades.
Now, Sanjay, you have never been in charge of a business school before, and I'm thinking that you haven't even been exposed all that much to MBA students. Am I right?
I have actually been exposed a lot to MBA students, but I've never led a business school before. My wife was one from HBS. And
Well,
I've
that's a lot of exposure right there.
yeah. And I've done a bunch of companies, startups, etc. And I work a lot with MBA. So I actually have a lot of exposure to MBAs,
Okay,
but not
good.
in the student setting.
Because that kind of lines up my next question, which is, what is your view of the MBA? Because I think that the Asia School of Business is among the most differentiated of all the MBA programs in the world. And is it the right way? I mean, obviously you're doubling down on a 1 year highly experiential program. I'm assuming that you are, all in on that kind of MBA as opposed to the more traditional MBAs where experiential learning is a small but still essential element of an MBA program, but it is not as dominant as it is in your program. So what's your view of the MBA traditionally and how this fits into the marketplace?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the MBA, for example, the MIT was an excellent degree.
Yeah.
I was just talking to one of our students who's an MBA student from MIT in India for something, and talking about business, etc. It's fantastic. What we're trying to do with the Asia School of Business is different. We want to be at the cutting edge of where the MBA will end up for Asia, for the developing world, for the multipolar international world. Number one. Number two, so the 1 year is part of that. Number two, I'm what I am. I'm an animal of technology. This little beautiful pond we live in, 2 black swans suddenly landed, right? COVID and AI. And
Right.
AI is going to fundamentally transform businesses. And so one of the other things that we would like to bring into this is that sensibility of innovation, of transformation, of technology, of business models, the future of work of the future, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a new thing we're going to be adding, data, things like that. We already do that, but we're going to sort of double down on that. So those are the two differentiations, and we'll continue to innovate the program and innovate the experience.
Will you teach in the program?
Absolutely. They can't keep me out of the classroom. In fact, I'll really volunteer.
I wouldn't think so, exactly. Because I think that you add tremendous value given your knowledge of digital learning, but more importantly, these new fundamental technologies are going to change everything in life and work. In particular, obviously, machine learning, AI.
I hope the students are as forgiving as you are, John.
But I think while most people are scared and worry about AI, you are more in the welcoming embrace of AI and what it can do and what it can't do. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's like the horse, right? I mean, when the horse was showed up, people were like, what's that animal? It just eats all our wheat. And then someone tried to figure out how to A, ride it, and B, turn into a draft animal, right? So the idea with technology is you cannot cower, you have to write it. You have to master it. And that's what we want to lean into.
Yeah. How do you imagine a business school should teach artificial intelligence today?
You have to teach it. It's sort of like swimming. You have to jump in. You have to use it. You have to embrace it. You got to figure out how you change the way you teach, but more importantly, change the jobs that you're preparing students for. You got to be part of the change as opposed to a victim of the change. So what
you don't do is you don't ban it and pretend it doesn't exist.
It's like banning rain. It's like shaking your fist at the clouds and saying, how dare you? Well, it's going to rain anyway. You have to embrace it. And by the way, I mean, you have to look at every field and ask the question, accounting, how is it going to be different? Marketing, how is it going to be different? And you want to get ahead. And the people who are ahead, I think, who can outrun this this new thing, have the advantage.
Because Sanjay, I've heard some deans actually tell me, oh, we're going to have to go back to paper and pencil tests because of ChatGPT 4. You're of a totally different mind on this.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think the way we do tests as a proxy of authentic measurement and assessment is itself flawed, right? I mean, there are some places where you do need to do tests, don't get me wrong, but to reduce everything to tests is a problem. I think we should have people create artifacts and judge the artifacts and let them use ChatGPT. It's a superpower. You got to own your superpower.
And I mean, the positive view of this is it's going to remove a lot of mundane work that even white collar intellectual workers end up having to do, right?
Absolutely. Look, the other day I had ChatGPT write a little two technologies, two sort of highfalutin technologies, a magnetron and something else. I asked it to write a little paragraph on it. It did a very good job. It was 95% right. It was 5% wrong. So what that means is the people who will benefit from it are the people who can get the advantage of the 95%, but who have the nuance to pick up on the 5% that's wrong and fix it. So that's what I mean.
Now, I'm imagining that under you, there may be some new programs, more executive education courses, more emphasis on lifetime learning, maybe even some new degree programs. Is it too early to talk about what changes you'd like to see at the Asia School of Business?
No, I think you're spot on. I've always felt that we treat education as a one and done. You have your degree and you're ready for the rest of your life. I think that's a little bit laughable. We wouldn't say that about a gym. You wouldn't say, go to the gym for 4 years and you'll be fit for the rest of your life. This is the oxygen of the new economy, learning. And so I deeply believe in continuous learning. We call it agile continuous learning, ACE. The agile economy deserves an agile learning system. And executive education is a key part of it. Lifelong learning is a key part of it. I also believe you never graduate from college. You just get a degree, but you're always in college, and the transcript has to grow with you.
Exactly, right. Okay, so the MBA program will begin in what month? And then it will end in what month? Because, sometimes we talk about 1 year MBA programs that are obviously accelerated and they're 12-month programs. And sometimes there are schools that have 10-month programs. What will your new iteration be? And when will it start and end?
It'll close to 12 months. And the reason is we have the MIT immersion, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So net, it'll start in the fall, September, and go through end of August and go through to the end of the summer with a little bit of gap, but it's close.
And the MIT immersion will last how long?
The MIT immersion is 4 weeks. And then, it's 4 weeks. And then there's an activity after that.
And if I recall correctly, I believe there's also a Silicon Valley immersion. Is that still in the program or not?
We used to do treks. So what we do is we have all these treks where students go to different places, sort of immerse themselves. After COVID, we've sort of regrouping and recreating which treks we do. And Silicon Valley's had a bunch of layoffs, as many of us have heard. We'll play the economy as it goes. We might do a trek to India, which is booming right now, China, which is recovering.
Yes, of course, that would make total sense. Absolutely. I wonder what your students end up doing after they graduate with the MBA from Asia School of Business. What are your career reports? What have they shown?
They, go to everything from the consulting firms, the Bains, McKinseys of the world, BCGs of the world, MBB, all the way to established big companies, the big multinationals, to startups. Quite a few do startups. Some go to regional companies, like a regional travel company. So it's actually quite the gamut. And they go around the world. I mean, it's not just Asia. They might go to Singapore, of course, in Asia or Indonesia, but then they go to Dubai, they go to Europe. We have employees in South America. So it's actually quite diverse.
Yeah.
Africa.
But they probably follow the pretty typical industry pattern of finance, tech,
yeah,
consulting, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and a little bit of entrepreneurship, but correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Can one go to your program and actually incubate a business and become an entrepreneur, or is that not necessarily a thing one would do at Asia School of Business?
Well, actually, the wonderful students I was meeting this morning, this afternoon,
oh,
I'm going to do it. And we were brainstorming about that in my office here at MIT. So we want to encourage. So we've had a few. Actually, we have an innovation and entrepreneurship space where students can incubate. We give them spaces. We have several students who are actually incubating startups in that space right now.
Oh, okay, that's great, fantastic. In terms of what one can expect when you step foot on campus, what does it look like? What does it feel like? I know you have a brand new building. Everything is like super modern, because the program didn't start out that way. Obviously, it started out in existing facilities, but I believe we're owned by the Central Bank of Malaysia. But you have a brand new campus, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting in my office. I mean, so it's like a ship, all right. And the front of the ship, the prow is you have this empty area, which is a green area, and then you have living accommodations around. Very nice, very swift. I wish I had something like this when I was in college. And then the actual building, I'm at the captain's lounge, and then you have a incredible building. It's several floors, ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor, and then it has a fifth floor, actually, fifth floor as well. And then we have tiered classrooms, open spaces, a beautiful atrium, a cafeteria. It's gorgeous. It's really something remarkable. I was joking to my MIT colleagues that I wish our MIT space looked like that.
Now, as the new CEO and the dean, what are your three priorities coming in?
Well, I mean, the first is I want to complete I want to first of all set up a culture of innovation at ASB. It's a new, young, very smart organization, very smart people. So I want to build a sense of we will innovate, we will get better, we will not be shy to change, and we will not be shy about taking on icons. That's the first, culture. The second is I want to really focus on the student experience. I want to really, really focus on the student experience in terms of, what they get out of it, how they get transformed, what are their needs, leadership, for example. If a student says, listen, I have some help in presentation skills, I want to sort of double down and give them. It's the second. And the third thing I want to work on is the ecosystem, innovation, entrepreneurship. We want to bring in more industries, more startups, and make this a buzzing, thriving, this beautiful campus. It was built during COVID. So now is the time to fling the doors open and fill it up with the buzz that's going to make that space. We call it the ASB Hive because it's a play on the word bee.
Right, makes sense to me. That's great. That's fantastic. What are you most looking forward to in this new job now? Because you're real newbie.
Yeah. I look forward to working with this team. I look forward to working with the students. Somebody and the faculty are amazing. So I just look forward to this great group of people and just creating something new. It's already happening, actually, and it's exhilarating. I mean, I was telling my wife, I miss you when I'm there, but I don't miss I haven't regretted this decision. So please come and visit, and let's make sure we, lean into this.
Okay, last question. What's your advice to someone who may be interested in the program? How do they know they're the right fit for this particular program?
It's a great question. I actually think that it's very important for there to be a mutual sense of, what you want and what the program offers. I would say the most important thing is to reach out and talk to people. We have people who are willing to talk, students, faculty, staff, and just reach out, have a chat, see if it's a fit. You'll see it right away. We have good chemistry with lots of folks, but there are some who want to do something that's, sort of outside our, if you want to go work in certain parts of the world, we may not be the right, if you're from Central Europe and you want to go back to Central Europe and you really don't, not that interested in sort of the world stage, we may not be right. So yeah, please talk to us.
Yeah, I think that's always good advice. And obviously you have a group of alums now out there who can speak to the experience, even though it's a new experience. Still, there are a lot of the elements in the 2-year program that will remain in the 1-year program, along with the approach and the heavy emphasis on experiential learning, which is very helpful. Sanjay, it's been a pleasure. Good to see you again. Congratulations on your new role as CEO, President, and Dean of the Asia School of Business. I know really interesting and fun things are going to happen there. I like that your first priority is to develop a culture of innovation. I can't imagine a better person to do that than you.
Thank you very much, John. Such a pleasure to see you again, and have a lovely afternoon on what looks like a beautiful day.
Indeed. All right, all of you out there, Asia School of Business. We've been speaking with Sanjay Sarma, the CEO, President, and Dean, newly placed at the school with a brand new 1-year accelerated MBA, 12 months long. If you desire a career that will have Asia in the future, and let's face it, I think Asia is in the future already, in the present, and will become an increasingly important part of the world economy. And if we believe some people will dominate the world economy in the years ahead, I can't think of a better place to go and explore the promise of that change than the Asia School of Business. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.